Hello everyone, and welcome to the fourth video in my A Little Whimsy for the Holiday series. Today we're going to make two different versions of gift card holders. Both of these are little gift card pockets, one out of cotton and one out of wool. To make the cotton version, you are going to use 3 items. You're going to want a piece of cotton that is 4.5 inches by 16 inches. All right. You'll need a piece of cotton batting, 4.5 inches by 8 inches. And then you're going to need a length of ribbon. I recommend between 3/4 of an inch and an inch wide. And you're going to need about 18 to 20 inches of this. Okay. Those 3 items will make a really cute little pocket. Then you're going to need any kind of finishing that you want to do. We'll cover that later. Step 1 is going to be to take your length of cotton, fold it in half, all right? Press it. Let me see, I have some of my pressing already done here. I did steam this, so it stuck a little as I unfolded it. All right, we're going to fold the fabric in half with the batting inside. And smooth this down. Now with a needle and thread, we are going to baste around the edges. Simple basting stitch. And I like to start down here at the fold, keeping my basting stitch fairly close to the edge. You're going to want to cover this stitch with your ribbon. And that's going to be one of the next steps. Nice and quick. Make sure you get the corner and come around. Now at 4.5 by 16, you could easily buy a fat quarter. I snagged my thread there, but you could buy a fat quarter. And depending on the pattern, if you wanted to center something, you could easily get 3, even 4 pockets or card holders. Oops. Get a little more thread there. 3 to 4 pockets out of each one, each fat quarter. You're going to notice this little pucker here. That's actually because that's the inside fold. I'll show you how that works in a second. That's how it pressed out in my iron. And I do find pressing this does help because it minimizes bulk, which is important at the binding stage. All right, so I've gone all the way around 3 edges. This is my folded edge here. I'm going to bring my folded edge up. So that is approximately 2 3/4 inches up. Okay. And now I'm going to work my way back up here to the fold. Reverse that, Anna. I'm going to work from the fold down to the fold. That's what I'm doing. And that just secures these layers together. Now, if you want something a little thinner than the cotton batting, go ahead and use a little bit of cotton flannel, wool flannel. I know there's a number of modern interfacings out there. And I just secured this. Snip. Now I'm going to come over and repeat on the other side. I find the batting gives just a little more bulk and a little more oomph without being overly bulky. And it has the advantage of giving you a little more substance to sew into when you're putting the binding on. Now I want to line that up for that stripe there. That's going to bother me. That's not quite perfect. There we go. That's how I want that. And again, work my way down. Still a basting stitch, but I'm kind of going back a little bit. It gives me a nice secure side. And then I'll just secure that. All right. Now we're going to take our ribbon, and our ribbon is going to bind this edge. Okay, so my ribbon is about 7/8 of an inch. And as you can see, it just wraps around there, okay? So at this point, you might want to go through and double check to make sure you don't have too much sticking out batting on the sides. Like this side, I'm just going to trim this down. Ta-da! All right. This side looks okay. Now I like to start my ribbon like this. I'll bring this piece around. Okay. I'm going to stitch down the fold over. Okay. You can see how I did that. Bring my needle back to the end through the selvage. There's a little dip in the selvage I like to aim for. And then I'm going to fold this over. And then here I'll neaten this up a little bit and tack the selvage edges together, wrap this up around, and that creates a nice fold over there. And then I can use the needle to kind of push that edge under if I need to. Sometimes I need to, sometimes I don't. And then I like to whip stitch this in place, catching just the edge of the selvage here. Okay. Now I'm going to go up, miter my corner at the top, and then come around. Okay, so now at this mitered corner spot, I am coming all the way up to the end, doing an extra stitch at the corner here. I'm going to hold my thumb down, and then I'm going to bring the corner over, and then that puts this next part of the ribbon at a 90-degree angle. And that lets me catch selvage to selvage with the tip of my needle and secure that. Okay. Then I come in at the very corner of the cotton and continue my top stitch. Okay, so as I'm coming up to the end here, I'm going to want to trim my ribbon back. Just leave myself a little over a 1/2 inch of a tail. I'm going to fold this end under. All right, I'm going to hold that while I do a couple more stitches, bringing myself down to the end. There we go. Flip over to the other side. Anchor this tail in place. Now I'm just going to slide it a bit in towards the raw edge. And that's going to become helpful when I fold over. This part, sometimes I find if I bring it down, kind of like a tuck there, that this helps keep some of that out of my way. All right, I'll bring my thread out towards the fold, bring this bit of ribbon in, grab the edge of the selvage, anchor that down to this fold again, needle through, wrap my thread up and around, kind of similar to a button stitch, kinda. And now I'm just going to proceed back along the edge here. Again, whipping this down through the selvage. And this literally is the extent of this super simple pocket. Now I call it a pocket because I'm so accustomed to 19th century terminology. In modern terms, yes, this would be a card holder, like a gift card holder. You could put in your gift card, you could put in a gift certificate, you could put in a membership, because a membership to a museum or a zoo or an art gallery is a great gift. It's almost a double gift because it gives to the recipient, but it also gives support to the site. So in past years when I've shown off little gift card holders, I usually tuck my museum membership inside as the demo. All right. Now, of course, I'm showing you this in cotton, and we're going to do a wool one next. But you could easily do this in silk as well. Some gorgeous embroidered silks out there and silk prints. And they work up nice. I highly recommend a tight weave. I would recommend a tight weave for this cotton as well. This is a quilt weight cotton. This one is kind of holiday festive, but it also would pass as a 19th century period print. You could definitely use this again throughout the year. This is basically the same design that I use or have used for years to hold things like business cards, my ID, a little bit of cash. They fold up nice and easily, tuck inside my pocket. One of the silk ones that I've made actually has become my really quick yard sale pocket. It's got some dollars and some change, actually a lot of change, tucked inside, and initially it was folded up and tucked in my purse, and over the years it's become tucked and rolled, and the poor thing is I had to say it's held up really well, but it's a little, little less clean than ideal. I need to pull it out and either wash it or make a new one. But it's just so easy to, throw in your pocket when you run up to somebody's yard sale rather than trying to drag along your purse, when you need to be able to hold the goodies or just not knock things over. As a child, I may have accidentally knocked over a few antiques. And, well, a little hypersensitive. Never really got yelled at horribly. I just felt, the guilt of ruining someone's somethings. Even if it was a beautiful, multi-tier Victorian stand filled with dozens of myosin sculptures. There was far more yelling, actually, when my brother and I accidentally knocked over, and it really was an accident. We didn't know that was going to happen, but we accidentally knocked over a towering pyramid of glass salad dressing bottles at the grocery store. Mom was a little embarrassed. We felt bad. Oh, yes. I don't recall going back there very often. Almost to the end here. And I'm having to push over with my thumb, the edge of the ribbon, so I'm sure to cover up that basting stitch I did. But don't worry, if you seem to miss one and it shows, you can snip it out and it really doesn't affect what happens, because once you have this binding ribbon on, it stays together pretty well. All right, I've reached the end. And as you know, I don't knot things off very often. I'm actually just going to run my needle up through this ribbon a couple of times. It's nice and secure. And snip this off. There we go. All right, so this becomes the inside with a little pocket. All right, and it'll fold down. There you go, and finished. It is roughly 4.5 by 3, perfect size for a card to tuck inside. Now you can close this if you wish, a little button loop or a ribbon loop with a button underneath, a hook and eye. For a modern material, you can easily do a little bit of Velcro. I know there's some stick-on Velcros out there. You could do a little ribbon here and have it wrap around, or you can leave it to just be loose. Once you press this again, this does stay closed pretty well. Like here's the one I did first. It'll stay closed nicely. You could always decorate this side or this side. You could do initials, or you could do a name, or you could do the year. Downside of doing the years, then it's not reusable. You could do Mary and joy and love or peace, anything seasonal. You could do a little figure, a lot of little decorating. So there's those little cotton versions. All right, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you. Okay, for our next gift card holder, we're going to do a wool version. Same concept as our cotton version, except in wool. And instead of a binding, we are going to do a decorative edge stitch instead. You can, of course, bind the wool with ribbon. I would go for a little bit wider ribbon, honestly. Now mine I have already pressed. I'm going to use some more of that embroidery floss that I've been using. This is pearl cotton. I don't think I mentioned that before. Thread this. And this I am going to knot off. I'm going to try to bury this knot inside. Now the wool that I'm using is a fold wool for rug hooking. You could use anything for rug hooking because it's going to be generally tight. This one's a little looser, but I love this design. You could use some Melton. You might be able to get away with some wool flannel, especially if you run it through the washer and dryer a couple of times. You have a few options. Now this one is a piece, turn it this way, that in this case I cut it a little wider and a little longer. It's just a little wider than 4.5 inches, and it's actually closer to 9 inches long instead of 8.5, because that's what the little remnant that I had allowed. Now I'm going to basically divide this in sort of threes, so 2 pieces, and this one's a little shorter, so that's what, 4.5, 4.25, 4.25. No, wow. Math, Anna. 3.25, 3.25. Sorry about that. So I'm folding this up, and I have pressed here. I've also pressed here as well, but for sewing, we're going to go this far. That makes this piece the top. Now you can leave it square, or if you fold it in half, we can shape this a little bit. And I'm going to go at a little curve as I have Clara trying to walk in front of me. Down, honey. So that creates a little curve. I think that's cute. Yeah. Okay. So back to our needle and floss here that I just cut a knot in. All right. Quick solution. We're going to snip that off. This becomes the new knot. All right. So we are going to work our way up, around the curve, and back down. Going across here, we can do that as well, completely optional. All right. I am going to sink my needle inside the fold. There we go. I'm coming in about 1/4 inch, okay? I'm going to bring my needle back through just where I was, wrap around, catch just the edge, help my finger guide it, and we're going to start a blanket stitch. Well, this is kind of fun at an angle that I don't usually work at. There we go. So in through the back, grab your thread, and lock it in place. Just going to keep going like this, all the way up and around. Now I am using a single strand of this floss. I like the idea of using something slightly contrasting. And as I'm doing this, I'm realizing I could have even gone a little thicker. Of course, it's up to you. If you happen to have silk embroidery ribbon, that could make a beautiful edge as well. So this stitch is simultaneously functional and decorative. If you wanted, you could easily sew down the edge with regular sewing thread, something that would disappear into the wool, and then go back around on the exterior, and the interior with a first stitch. or some other decorative stitch. Definitely an option. So here I'm just going up and around the curve, watching my tension. I tend to be someone who sews very tight. And if I sew this too tightly, it's going to pucker. At the same time, you don't want it too loose because then it'll snag. And I find snagging corners are temptations for felines. Okay, let's see how that's working on the outside. Now, of course, you can work in the other direction. This is just the direction I'm accustomed to working in. I'm trying really hard to do better about keeping my hands in the camera. Now you've noticed that I've switched a little. I'm using the tip of the needle to catch that thread instead. I'm hoping seeing both versions will help folks out there get a rhythm of their own. I'm getting close to the end of this particular strand. It's better to cut too little and add more than to have too much bulk back up. So I just wound that back through. I think I'm going to see if I can run this end in between the woven layers here. See? I think I'm going to put a tiny knot at the end here. This is going to vary depending on what kind of wool you're working with. I just want to have a minimal change. There we go. That should be snug. The knot's now buried inside. I'm going to bring this along this last tail into my next stitch and just keep going. I may have some friends out there that do embroidery that are going, egads, what is she doing? This is the result of being a stubborn child. I fully admit this. I was not good at being shown how to do anything. I was headstrong and determined. I could figure it out. I could solve the puzzle, I could solve the problem, and do it my own way. I am quite certain this drove a few adults a little mad. Yes. At the same time, by the time middle school came around, it did result in winning a few awards. But you know, it's always good for a kid's ego. I'll let you guess what the awards were in. All right. The awards were not on keeping my hands in the right place for the camera. I did readjust the camera, really I did. All right. So now I'm coming back to the edge where I'm going to catch the other piece of the wool here. It wants to pucker a little. All right, so this next stitch, this is where I'm going to grab it. All right, so I've grabbed both layers and I'm grabbing my loop and it's locking in place. There we go. Nice and easy. Because how I've been holding this and not pinning or clipping, I ended up not keeping this quite in place the way I should. There we go. I wish I had bought more of this particular wool. This, and there's a tiny bit more, is left from some of the strawberries I did last year. This is just a scrumptious wool. I love the color. I love the stripes zigzagging about. Now, if this came in orange, like gingery orange, I would totally use it to try to make a cat. So I could have a striped cat. All right, so there we are, down at the end. Ta-da! And I'm just going to take my thread and I am going to weave it kind of inside the wool, back up. So the thread does not show on either side, and yet is anchored in there nicely. You can feel it when you pull through, and it's happy and snug. All right, we can snip that off. And snip off our little edge up here. All right, now I would recommend pressing this. It'll help get that stitch really set in there. All cute. And I'm turning it upside down like that because I want to talk a little bit about embellishing. So you could embellish this side or this side. One year I did little snowman faces. You could easily do a little snowman, cute little snowman. You could actually start them down on the bottom side. Again, you can do a closure. Little snowman down there, little hat. You could use some bells. I've got some snowflakes laying around. Ooh, I kind of like that. That's cute. I like that. Do a couple down there too. You could stick with a theme if you've got a theme going. So you know the hearts that I've got going. Do those. Wonder what would happen if I add a little red back on there. Here. I've got a bit of that. Yeah, I'll go it this way. Red and black. Just cut a quick, fold it, style heart. Ta-da! Oh, that's cute too. Do something like that. Wonder what that looks like over here. No, I like wool on wool. I like wool on wool and wool on silk. Or silk on wool. So lots of different little options. And if I'd done a little bit bigger heart, I could have done that. Not quite big enough. There you go. One of the things with the wool is you could stitch it down like applique, or you could needle felt it down. So open this back up and needle felt it onto the flap, or you can needle felt before sewing it. Really like that. The year that I did the snowman faces, I actually needle felted the edges and then needle felted the snowman right on the fronts. They had little faces, little corn noses and stuff. I thought they were adorable. Loved doing those. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed making these or seeing me make these. And if you decide to make your own, please let me know. I would love to see what you make. All right. Thank you all. Bye-bye.